Each order of angels vibrated with its own unique tone of creation. The seraphim, nearest to the divine source, blazed with a love so pure that no mortal eye could endure its brilliance. They revolved endlessly around the divine presence in circles of sacred flame, singing a name too holy to be spoken, only to be felt within the soul. The cherubim, radiant beings of wisdom and light, safeguarded the hidden truths of existence. Their many eyes perceived both what is and what is destined to be. The thrones formed the eternal seat of divine justice, still, yet always turning, paradoxes of holy balance and motion. The virtues who moved through worlds bestowing strength, grace, and miracles that the powers, the guardians of cosmic balance, preventing collapse between realms. All these ranks served not in subjugation but in joy, each note a part of heaven's great symphony. Above them stood the archangels, not rulers but anchors. They were the guardians of realms, the executives of divine will, the messengers and warriors whose names were carved into the breath of creation. And among these archangels, two shone brighter than the rest, twin beacons at the edge of infinity. Michael, whose name was a question inscribed in fire. Who is like God? He carried the blade of divine will, a sword that responded not to danger, but to truth. He was strength, insolence, justice tempered by compassion. When Michael moved, realms shifted into alignment. His loyalty was not obedience. It was devotion. And beside him, radiant, enigmatic, adored, was Hel, the one who shines with the purity of the eternal morning star. Hel did not command armies. He composed frequencies. He painted the skies with colors unknown to mortals. He breathed beauty into being. Wherever he passed, light intensified. He was the architect of wonder, the singer of creation's deeper melodies. And in his presence, lesser angels often fell silent, not in fear, but in reverence. Heaven adored him, and in this adoration, something unseen began to stir. What began as admiration from others became a mirror to Hel's own thoughts. Was he not also of divine essence? Was his light truly just a reflection? Or was it something more? The hierarchy had no chains, no laws to bind him. But structure is not always made of bars. Sometimes it is made of rolls. And Hel began to feel the weight of his. He began to ask, why must harmony mean stillness? Why must purpose be inherited, not chosen? These were not blasphemies. They were questions. But in heaven, where all things are known, even questions have consequences. Michael observed the changes. He did not confront. He contemplated. He stood in the garden of light and watched his brother walk the edge of heaven, wings aglow with thoughts too vast for others to hear. For in the beginning there was only harmony. But now one note drifted, and that was enough to begin the shift. Chapter 2. The seed of rebellion. Heylel's questioning begins rebellion. Pride rarely shouts. It whispers in the language of longing, clothed in beauty and vision. Heylel did not fall in a moment. His descent began with a thought. Not a wicked thought, not an evil one, but a curious one. A question rising like morning mist over still waters. If I was born from the divine, then what truly separates the creator from the created? Heylel asked himself. From the depths of high contemplation, in the outermost edges of heaven, where few angels ventured, stood the tree of the eternal mind. Unlike anything in creation, it pulsed with silent thought. Sacred concepts yet tobe spoken, possibilities not yet chosen. Beneath its sprawling crystalline branches, Hel sat alone. It was here he first let the question form, not just in thought, but in frequency. He sang it, whispered it into the ether. Are we reflections, or are we seeds? He began composing new harmonies, subtle but different melodies that were not around the divine name, but around the self. Note in defiance at first, but in exploration. These were not songs of rebellion. They were variations. But within heaven, even a variation alters the chord of eternity. Some angels felt these vibrations and wept. Others followed him with awe. The songs awakened emotions in him that they did not have names for: ambition, individuality, yearning. Hel began to gather them not as soldiers. As seekers, we are not slaves of light, he said gently. We are its bearers. We are not copies. We are continuations of the divine thought. What if we were meant to grow it, reshape it? The words felt beautiful, and beauty in heaven often passed unchallenged. Mythology noticed the shift in resonance. He heard the subtle changes in the celestial harmonies. He watched as entire choirs stopped singing the ancient songs and began composing new ones inspired by Hell's light. When he approached his brother, it was not with a blade, but with a question of his own. Hell, where are you going? Hell smiled forward. You are loved, adored. Why press further? Because there is more. Don't you feel it, Mikhail? A longing deeper than praise. A voice inside us that whispers, we were meant for more than symmetry. Mikhail's eyes, ancient and sorrowful, searched Hal's. Is the echo, you hear your own voice, or his? Hal did not answer, not because it was uncertain, but because he was certain. He turned back toward the horizon of heaven, his wings trailing light. In secret, the gatherings grew. Tens, then hundreds, then thousands of angels came to hear his words. Not all agreed, but those who did began to vibrate in his rhythm. Their auras glowed with a slightly different hue, just enough to mark a difference. They were still of heaven, but no longer fully in tune with it. The seraphim observed, the thrones stirred. Even the divine was silent, not in ignorance, but in grief, for the Eternal One does not prevent what must reveal itself. And Heylel continued. He created new patterns in the heavenly architecture. He wrote alternate sacred geometries. He dared to dream of realms outside of divine command. He was not trying to destroy heaven. He was trying to rewrite its laws. He believed he was liberating creation from stagnation. In a way, he also believed he was the beginning of a new light. And perhaps in some mysterious way, he was right. But the light that seeks to become the source begins to twist. It begins to bend around itself, not outward. It begins to fold. And in that folding, the seed of rebellion is born. Not in hatred, but in conviction. Chapter 3. The war in heaven. Michael rises with the divine hosts heaven. The fiercest battles are not waged with rage, but with righteousness that has lost its root. There are moments in the fabric of eternity when time itself holds its breath. This was one of those moments. The harmony of heaven, once flawless and crystalline, now vibrated with tension. A discordant note echoed across dimensions, not loud, not violent, but persistent. A divergence in the sacred frequency, a tear in the divine weave, the eternal voice which had not spoken since the formation of the stars, now called forth the assembly of the infamous circle. A convocation unseen since the first shaping of existence. Every angel, every choir, every rank, from the seraphim to the lowliest guardian of seedlings, gathered in a silence so profound that the spheres stopped singing. From the center of the circle descended Heylel, radiant as ever, wings unfurled, robes trailing solar fire. His light had changed, not dulled, but reoriented. It no longer faced upward in reflection. It honed outward, seeking acknowledgement that it demanded presence. I do not rebel, he declared, his voice smoother than starlight. I evolve. I am not the enemy. I am the next step. Whispers rippled through the gathered hosts. Some wept, others stood numb. Michael approached. Armored in divine justice, he walked not with wrath, but with sorrow. His sword, the blade of response, was sheathed, humming in its scabbard, a weapon that did not strike by command, but by necessity. You seek to ascend beyond the source, Mikhail asked, his voice like steady thunder. You wish to carry light but not reflect it. I am light, Heylel answered. Not borrowed, not given. I am. A silence followed. Not empty, but full of judgment. The voice of the divine, felt rather than heard, surrounded all. Let him who wishes to depart, depart. But let it be by his own will. Let none be bound by fear, nor silenced by tradition. Choose now with eyes open. And there, in the stillness, a third of the stars dimmed. A third of angels turned their gaze away from the throne and toward hell. He did not command them. They followed him. Some out of admiration, some out of belief, some out of sorrow. Mikkel unsheathed his blade, not to strike, but to separate. A veil split across the higher realms, dividing the loyal from the divergent. Then, without noise, without scream, the war in heaven began. But it was no war of blood. It was a war of essence. Angels clashed not with steel, but with light. Thought collided with thought. Frequencies twisted against one another. Realms trembled as the purity of creation was bent and fractured by will. Heylel sang new forms into being. Dark, magnificent, haunting. His followers became the watchers, the binders, the whispering flames. They tried to reshape heaven to mirror their inner world. But heaven isn't clay. It is law woven in love. Michael, though fierce, wept as Hestruck. Each act of separation carved sorrow into the throne's foundation. His sword did not kill. It revealed. Every blow showed what had been lost in house light. Humility, surrender, harmony. The battle raged not in hours or days, but in states of eternity. In its wake, vast chasms formed. Realms shattered, and in the end, Heylel fell, not thrown. He was drawn down by the very weight of his will. As he crossed the veil into the lower planes, the light that once crowned him as the morning star flickered, then twisted, not extinguished, but inverted. And thus Lucifer was born. Chapter 4. The Fall of the Morning Star. To fall is not always the fall of the morning star. Heylel's last gaze at he vento be evil. It is to carry memory without mercy. The skies no longer wept. They held their breath. After the clash of light and purpose, after the songs of heaven were torn by essence against essence, the stars dimmed, not extinguished, just still, watching, remembering. Heylel stood at the edge of heaven's veil, his wings no longer shimmering with the perfect symmetry of divine light. They still glowed, but now that glow bent inward, wrapped tightly around his own will, like armor woven from longing. His beauty had not vanished, but it had changed. There was now a sharpness to it, a sadness so deep it echoed without sound. He was not cast down violently. He chose to step away. The divine did not hurl him into the abyss. There was no thunderous expulsion, no flaming spear. There was only a final gaze, a moment of eternal stillness, when the voice said nothing because nothing could be said. Heylel's fall began with one step beyond the edge of alignment, a step away from unity and into individuality unanchored. Had ascended through realms, crossing thresholds of resonance that once lifted him, now rejecting him. Like oil slipping from water, the stars turned their faces. The thrones closed their circles. The seraphim folded their wings in grief. As he passed into the lower spheres, his very being fractured, not violently, but silently. With every layer he crossed, a part of his former essence fell away. Devotion, harmony, surrender, until what remained was still brilliant, but no longer whole. The name Hell shattered syllable by syllable, and in its place came a new name forged by separation. Lucifer, not a curse, not a mockery, but a title, the bearer of light, now fallen. He landed not on burning rock, but into a world still forming. Earth still wrapped in mists and mystery. The world opened its arms to receive this celestial exile. He did not touch the ground as an invader. He came like a mirror descending into matter. He wandered the mountains. He whispered to the wind. He wept in places no man would ever find. He was not yet evil. He was broken. He remembered the music. He remembered Michael's gaze. He remembered the divine embrace. So bright, so warm, now so far. And this was the true curse. Not punishment, not chains, but perfect memory without a way back. He could still see the light, but it no longer let him in. In the silence of the first night of exile, Lucifer knelt not in worship, but in mourning that he did not scream. He did not defy. Hesemply whispered a question into the void. Was I wrong, or was I too soon? No answer came. Not yet. And so he rose, not in joy, but in necessity. And thus began the age of wandering, of manipulation, of fractured, light-haping, fractured worlds, of mankind learning to love and to betray. Lucifer did not teach hatred. He taught choice unmed from grace. And in every soul that strayed, a piece of him stirred. That was part one of our story. Michael chose obedience. Lucifer chose freedom. But were their choices truly born of free will or written into the divine scrolls of a God's plan? Stay tuned because part 2 is coming very soon.